Welcome back. More flare-ups over the weekend between the U.S. and Iran as questions loom about who is controlling the Strait of Hormuz and markets react. President Trump told me yesterday morning that Iran claiming to close the strait is inaccurate because the U.S. already closed the Strait of Hormuz with its naval blockade. Now, China is attempting to grow its stockpile of oil and gas with reports of a 2 million barrels a day surplus in the month of March. Meanwhile, new U.S. intelligence finds Beijing is considering giving Iran advanced X-band radar systems, which would significantly improve Tehran's ability to track incoming threats and track the United States. But of course, last week, President Trump told me that Xi Jinping responded to him in a letter saying that China is not sending weapons to the Iranians and will not. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow Gordon Chang. Gordon, good to see you. This is getting interesting here with this shipping vessel, which has been going back and forth between Iran and China, and the U.S. Boarded it last week. Your reaction to all of these new flare-ups over the weekend, Gordon?
This was an important move, Maria, for the United States to seize that ship, because obviously it was headed for an Iranian port. That's a clear violation of the blockade as announced by President Trump. And it's an act of will that tells the world that the United States is as good as its word. And I'm sure that they heard that in Beijing. A lot of people say, oh, the Chinese are playing this long game on the Iran war. Well, no. Xi Jinping is a very short-term ruler, acting irrationally most of the time. And we have a sense that essentially Xi Jinping doesn't have any cards to play. He cannot stop the United States. So this is very interesting. I think the war is working out well because President Trump has decided that he's going to win it.
Yeah. And he said the other day in my interview that he's been so tough on Beijing. He talks a lot like, this is my good friend. I'm going to go have this meeting on May 14th. But at the same time, what he does is actually pretty tough in terms of what he's done with oil and gas from Iran to Venezuela to the comments on Cuba. What do you think about this meeting? If hostilities open again and re-emerge in the Persian Gulf and this agreement is not signed tonight, I wonder if the trip to Beijing is in question again, Gordon. What do you think?
If the war is continuing by the middle of May, I don't think President Trump is going to want to go to Beijing because the political costs at home would be far too high. Clearly, China is an enemy combatant. It supplied that targeting satellite information to the Iranians. They allowed the Iranians to take over a Chinese satellite. We have seen these reports of Chinese weapons, including these supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles that the Iranians fired at the Abraham Lincoln at the end of last month. This report about passive radar and so many others. So China, clearly is on the other side, and President Trump, in the middle of a war, can't go to the capital of an enemy combatant. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. Though, look, Gordon, we've got, at this point, the economies of all of these nations really seeing an impact. You've got to believe that President Trump is thinking about economic warfare here, squeezing Iran, and yet Beijing claims to record higher than expected or higher than anticipated growth. They say their GDP came in at 5% in the first quarter. That would be up from 4.5% the previous quarter. China's central bank is holding lending rates steady for an 11th straight month. Do you buy these numbers, first quarter GDP at 5%, even with the fact that they're getting squeezed on oil and gas from Iran, Gordon?
No, I don't buy those numbers. First of all, they're not consistent with many underlying indicators. And also, they're not consistent with what the Chinese central government is doing. We saw in the last 10 days all of these rules that are meant to punish foreign companies that are leaving China. That's not the act of a government that is growing that has an economy that's growing at 5.0%. So, you look at all of this and you say the Chinese economy can't be growing that fast. And by the way, retail sales during the quarter up 2.4. exports up 2.5, but industrial output was up 6.1. And that suggests that if there was growth, it was because China was producing products that it could not sell either at home or abroad. That means there's going to be a buildup of inventory. That's a really bad thing for an economy. So I just don't buy the numbers that are coming out of China. They are just too good to be true.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we are kicking off our AI week this week, Gordon, and just in time for our deep dive on artificial intelligence, we've got this video. A Chinese-built humanoid robot beat a human in Beijing's half marathon. Can you imagine? It completed the 13-mile race in 50 minutes and 26 seconds, roughly 7 minutes ahead of the human record. I don't want to see this guy on the battlefield, that's for sure, but what's your take on what China is doing with these humanoid robots?
China is by far the world's leader in humanoid robots. And this half marathon yesterday was really unbelievable performance. These robots this year, they beat last year's record by 1 hour and 50 minutes, which shows you the remarkable improvement in the humanoid robots. You got to put this, though, in perspective, because China's high-tech manufacturing, according to official numbers, only accounts for 6% of China's GDP. So, yes, these robots are fun to watch. They are important, but they are not significant because the rest of the Chinese economy is a black hole.
Yeah. Here's the president when I asked him about China and AI. Watch this. So should government have some safeguards? Should there be a kill switch for some of these AI agents?
There should be. But let me say, we're leading in AI. We're leading China by a lot, actually. We're building plants that nobody ever imagined before. And it's going to be a tremendous, bigger than the internet. It's going to be tremendous. And there are always difficulties when you're at this stage of something. But, you know, when you mention banking, it could also make banking much bigger, much safer, much more efficient.
So, you know, there are threats with AI, Gordon, and that's what we're digging into this week. But China's trying hard to beat the United States on AI, on space, on the economy. Number two superpower. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, on space, we're ahead on both the race to the moon, as we saw with Artemis 2, but more important, we're ahead on the race for the moon because of reusable rockets. You know, yes, we're ahead of China on AI because our chips are far better than China's. And I would hope that President Trump would not allow the sale of advanced American chips to China, because the only way that they can beat us is with our own equipment and our own chips. We should not be providing them to China.
All right, we will leave it there. Gordon, always a pleasure. Great talking with you. Thank you so much. Gordon Chang, a wealth of knowledge on China.